Hi everyone, and welcome back to another video in a series of Fantasy Star Online 2 New Genesis videos. Today we're going to be continuing our look at the different weapons in PSO2 New Genesis, and we're just going to be breaking down each individual weapon and just going through the basics of using it. These again are mainly designed for new players to the game, so people who are just picking up New Genesis for the first time. We're just going to do a basic breakdown of how the weapon works, go through the different Photon art, and some of the skills that you might want to invest in as well to complement the weapon. So in today's video, I recently did a community poll on my YouTube just to get an idea of what people wanted to see next, and the winner of that poll was the assault rifle, which is a weapon that's used by the ranger class and also by gunner as well. So I'm going to go through the assault rifle today and just show you the basics of how it works, and again just go through all the Photon art and everything as well. So the assault rifle it's a rapid fire weapon. What we'll do first is I'll show you the basic move set for it. So the assault rifle, it's a rapid fire range weapon. So if you're building to use an assault rifle, you want to be using affixes that prioritize range damage. So the assault rifle, the way it works, the basic attack, if you just press the button once, it does a quick burst fire of a couple of shots. Just a couple of, I think it's about 3 shots. So that's the base, how the basic attack works. You can also, with the assault rifle, hold the attack button down, which will just allow it to go full auto. And you can do that indefinitely, because as it's your normal attack, it doesn't use any PP cost, so you can just indefinitely hold the button down. So that's your basic attack. You also have a weapon action. So your weapon action, by default, if you press it with no button input held, you do a quick backdash and fire a few shots as you retreat. So it's good for sort of dashing back away from an enemy attack, and you also fire a couple of shots as you back off, just to keep the damage on. There are some skills that adjust how the weapon action works, though, and I'll cover those as we go into them. Just to note with the weapon action as well, you can do it different directions, so you see you kind of like strafe. And the direction that you shoot in with that will depend on what direction you input on the controller. So if I input right on the controller, you'd say I'll either move to the right, or if I keep doing it, I will actually shoot to the right as well. It kind of arcs round as you keep doing it, so the more you do it, the more you'll just aim to that direction. That's the weapon action, the basics of it anyway. As I've said, there are several skills with Ranger that affect how certain skills work. That's your basic attack and your weapon action covered. So the next thing we're going to look at is some of the Photon arts. So like most weapons, Assault Rifle has 4 Photon arts. And if we go into our weapons here, you can see we've got Raising Shot, Homing Dart, Blaze Shot, and Revolt Aim. So the first one is Raising Shot. So it says, fire shells that explode on impact with the enemy. The shells spiral and penetrate targets by charging. So the way this works, if you press it and just press and release, you fire off a couple of little shots that do a little bit of increased damage over a normal hit. Or you can hold the attack button and fire off a shot that actually penetrates through enemies. So if you've got a couple of enemies that are lined up, if you do a charge shot with that Photon art, the bullet will actually travel through them and you'll hit multiple enemies at once. So again, that was the normal shot and that's the charge shot. So they do look visually different as well. So that is Raising Shot. The next one is Homing Darts. So this is quite an interesting Photon art. It's very similar to one of the Photon arts that was in the base game, which I believe in base game it was called Homing Emission. So the way this works is you fire special bullets that track multiple enemies in your field of view by charging. So with this, you don't really want to use it uncharged. So if you use it uncharged, it just fires a bullet off. Now, that will track an enemy if you've got an enemy targeted. The way that you want to use Homing Emission, or sorry, Homing Dart, is if you hold the attack button down, you might be able to see that as I go near these tames that are on the ground here, you can see it puts a little white target on them. You can see I've got about 3 targeted there. If I then release the attack button, you can see it shoots off and it hits all of those targets at once. So it effectively fires homing bullets that hit anything that you've got targeted. Funnily enough, it actually works very, very similar to in Armored Core 6, where you have the missile launchers with the multi-lock. It works really, really similar to that. You just hold the button down until you've got all the targets highlighted, and then release and it'll attack all of those targets. So it basically works the same as that. So if you've been playing Armored Core 6, it's very similar to that. So that's homing darts. The next fortnite is Blaze Shot. So it says, fire a high-speed volley after a dodge. By pressing and holding down on the PA button, it will continue to fire until PP is depleted. So if you just press this, you'll do like a dodge and then fire a quick shot. Now with this, you can again input a direction to influence the way you dodge. You can see I can dodge different directions. And again, the direction that I'm dodging is the direction that I hold on the controller. So if I hold left, I'll dodge towards the left. If I hold like back towards the camera, I'll dodge backwards. If however you hold this down, you'll do the same start. Then you can basically just keep shooting. What I'll just have to do is I'll just recover a bit more PP, just so you can see how it actually works properly with a full PP gauge. Yeah, so there we go. So if I now just hold the button down, you can see it just keeps firing. And I can just keep on going with this until my PP runs out. And it'll fire a slightly more powerful shot at the end. You may have also noticed as well with that Photon art that you can actually move around quite significantly during it as well. So just by holding the direction button while you're doing it, you can actually move around and effectively chase targets or strafe while you're doing it. So a common thing to do with this is to do it and then basically strafe around a boss. It does work on lock-on as well, so if you lock onto something... So for example, if I lock onto this term here and do it, I can effectively circle around it. Obviously works better on enemies with a lot more health. But that's roughly how homing darts works. Sorry, not homing darts. What's it called? Blaze Shot. So the last fortnite is Revolt Aim. So Revolt Aim, again, this works quite similar to an old PSO2 fortnite called Satellite Cannon. The way this works is, I don't actually know if you can do it uncharged, to be honest. Yeah, it doesn't really do anything when it's uncharged. Can you... It's uncharged, it won't actually do anything. It may differ if you target something, but the whole purpose of this fortnite is to use it charged. So if you hold the attack button, you can see it puts this blue target down. Now this target, you can move around and run around while you're doing it, and it'll move the target. Your PP won't go down any further while you're holding this down as well. Alternatively, you can also go into the sort of FPS view, and you can actually move this around. So I think after a while it does cancel out. So again, if we hold it down and we're still in the FPS view here, you can see I can actually position it a bit more accurately. You can only bring it so close to you. And then if we release the attack button, it does like a big explosion wherever you were aiming, wherever you had that blue target. So just to show you, if I target where this green rest sign is, you can see there. And again, just do it one more time. You can see you've got the blue target. If I release it there, that's where the explosion comes out. I'm not really sure how useful that fortnite is. The damage isn't bad on it, but obviously it does require a little bit of setup. I think you can use it with auto aim. So again, if I just look for literally anything. I think someone's been around here killing a lot of the enemies here, so can you use it with automatic lock-on? Yeah, it does seem to be sticking to that target there. I think the terrain affected it there. So again, if I target you, you can see it does target roughly where the enemy was, but it doesn't track them if they move. Again, we've got a couple of enemies here. So if we go to use homing darts, so you've got to target both of them. There we go. That's a rough overview of the Photon arts for assault rifle. So now we need to look at some of the skills that affect how the assault rifle plays. So if we go into the character info and go to the classical information, there's a few skills in particular that affect assault rifle. Again, this isn't a video covering Ranger as a whole. This is just covering the assault rifle. So some of these skills we'll just be skipping over because some of them are more relating to the launcher weapon that Ranger uses as well. But important skills for assault rifle. So the first one is blight rounds. So again, if you've played base game PSO2, there was a skill in that called weak bullet, and blight rounds is essentially the same thing. So what this does, it's an active skill that goes in your sub pallet, and when you press on it, you'll fire a bullet. It doesn't do much damage at all, but what it'll do is it'll put a little target on that enemy. And if it's on something like a boss that has multiple parts, it'll put a target on the part that you hit. Once that red target is on the enemy, that enemy then will take increased damage on that part. So again, if I can find something to show you this on. Go for one of these deers over here because these have a little bit more health, so they should be able to survive the shot. Yeah, so if we target this deer here, and what will happen is when I press this, you can see it on the sub palette just down near the bottom. This icon here is for blight rounds, and you see there's a number 3 next to it. So I have 3 blight rounds loaded, and they'll restore over time. So if I then press the blight rounds button, you can see that little red target it puts on. And then if I keep attacking, I do increase damage. So again, if I blight round that, I do increase damage while the blight round is active. So that's blight rounds. The next one you want to be looking at is... So there's a skill called Blight Rounds Reinforce. So this is obviously only as effective if you've got Blight Rounds. And it's any parts that are hit by Blight Rounds that are hit a certain number of times will take increased damage, and the duration of the skill will be extended. So the way that works is, once you hit a target with a Blight Round, if a certain number of hits land on that part, the target will actually change colour to a purple colour. When it changes to purple, the damage it takes will be further increased, and it will also extend the duration of the blight rounds on that target as well. So that's a really, really useful skill for increasing damage. I should also point out as well that any blight rounds that you use will be visible to other players, and other players will get an attack bonus when they attack it as well. So Ranger is a really, really useful class for, particularly for things like urgent quest bosses, because the ability to apply a blight round to a weak point on a boss is really, really useful. And if you've got a large party, you're going to reach that cut-off to get the increased buff on blight rounds as well. You're going to reach that quite fast. You'll normally find, to be honest, in emergency quests that the blight rounds will turn purple almost instantly. So the next skill we need to look at is Spread Shot. So Spread Shot is another active skill. So Ranger is quite heavily focused on using active skills from your sub-palette. So what Spread Shot does is, as you do assault rifle attacks, you'll build up a gauge above the skill. And once that's full, you can then use Spread Shot. And essentially what Spread Shot does is it turns your assault rifle into a close-range shotgun. So it hits everything at like really, really close range with pretty good damage. There's a couple of other skills that are tied to this as well. So there's also Spread Shot Quick Getaway. This is whenever you use Spread Shot, you actually get a little bit of an invulnerability period. And also, when you input a direction after Spread Shot, you'll do an evasive maneuver after it. So as standard, Spread Shot just does the shot. But because I've got that other skill, I'll actually do an evade after it as well. So, for example, if I pull back on the direction stick when I do this, Spread Shot, if you're wondering, is this icon here just next to blight rounds. They do look quite similar. Easy way to remember it is just that blight rounds are red. So when I do spread shot, what I'll do then is I will hold back on the analog stick. So you can see there, I was really weird with the terrain popping there. So basically you do like a spread shot that hits everything close range, but then you also dash back to get out of range. So what you basically want to be doing with spread shot is getting in, using it, and then using the evade to get out of distance again. Because really you don't want to be at close range for too long with a ranger. So next skill is spread shot wide range. So what this does is, instead of it just being a shotgun blast that hits in like a cone in front of you, it essentially extends the range of that cone. So it hits almost everything in front of you. It widens the arc of where spread shot hits. So that's how mine is at the moment. I can't show you what it looks like previously because I've already got it unlocked on this character. But that spread shot is, that is how it works. It's like a very wide spread. It's really strange that the grass kind of disappears and then cuts back in again when you do that. Never noticed that before. So next skills. So that's all the ones that cover spread shot really. Actually, no, there is one more. There's also a spread shot auto charge. This basically just means that your gauge for spread shot will automatically fill over time. So normally it fills up by doing assault rifle attacks. That will still be the case, but then with auto charge, you will also get like a continuous recharge that happens all the time regardless. So next thing is slide shot advanced. So what this is, it's weapon actions will trigger an invulnerability period. So I've already covered the weapon action, which is this little dash. So with slide shot advance, while you're doing that, you have iframes. Simple enough, really. Next one is Rifle Grenadier. So this is quite an interesting skill. So this, I mentioned briefly earlier that there are ways to change the weapon action, and this is how you do it. So what Rifle Grenadier does is, if you hold the weapon action instead of just tapping it, you can do a grenade attack instead of doing the normal slide. You can also input a direction at the same time, which will throw the grenade in the direction, or you can just input no direction, which will put a trap down in its place. But there is a little bit of a cooldown on it. But if I just hold it in place, you can see I put this trap down. Now, if any enemies walk into this trap, the trap will detonate and do damage to them. So that's if you input no direction at all. So, as you can see, there is, if you look at the weapon action icon at the bottom, when I press it, you'll see the cooldown. So there's still about 10 seconds left on it. It actually lasts quite long, this as well. Yeah, so we've just got there. So it basically lasts as long as the recharges. But alternatively, if you input a direction, again, you need to hold the weapon action for this. You can lob the grenade in that direction. You can see there. So you do the slide shot and then you fire a grenade forward after it. So again, you can't spam this because there is a cooldown on it. That's Rifle Grenadier. Just take care of that guy because he was chasing after me. So, after Rifle Grenadier, the next one is Rifle Attack Impact. So this is, you build up a gauge whenever enemies hit with a Photon art multiple times. Once the gauge is maxed out, a certain number of normal attacks will become more powerful. So all it does is, after you've hit with a certain number of Photon art, it'll just reinforce your normal attacks for a little while. So it just encourages you to use the Rifle Photon arts. That, again, is simple enough. Then you've also got Rifle Grenadier Quick Reload. So this is, whenever you successfully dodge with a weapon action, it reduces the cooldown time for Rifle Grenadier. So I mentioned that the Rifle Grenadier cooldown time, it's about, I think it's about 20 or 30 seconds. Yeah, it's 30 seconds. So, again, though, as you can see, when you first start the weapon action, the first thing you do is that dash. And that dash, as we've already established, has iframes. Now, if you dodge an enemy attack by doing this, and then go into Rifle Grenadier, Sorry, if you do a weapon dash and you successfully dodge an attack while you're doing it, it will shorten the cooldown for Rifle Grenadier. Otherwise, you'll be stuck with a 30-second cooldown. So if you want to spam Rifle Grenadier, you can do it a bit more often, but you need to successfully dodge an attack with the weapon action to reduce that cooldown timer. So, and then the last one is Rifle Grenadier Advanced. So this makes you invulnerable for a set period of time whenever you use Rifle Grenadier. So again, there is quite a lot of iframes on Ranger really, because you have, obviously you've got the iframes from this dash. Then you've also, if you unlock that Rifle Grenadier Advanced skill, you've also got the cooldown whenever you do the Rifle Grenadier skill as well. So when I do that skill, I'm invulnerable as well. Not for the whole 30 seconds, obviously, it's just while you're doing the skill as far as I'm aware. So that's a rundown of how the different skills affect the assault rifle. So that's a rough rundown of how the assault rifle works. It's honestly quite a simple weapon to use. Now, when should you be using assault rifle? So assault rifle is really, really decent for single target damage. There are some skills that will allow you to hit multiple targets, like the spread shot and I suppose things like the homing darts as well. But generally, it's more of a single target weapon. Now, on Ranger, obviously, your only other weapon is Launcher, and Launcher is quite good at doing AoE. So it's quite an obvious balance. You've got the assault rifle for your single targets, and you've got the Launcher for your multiple targets. So it works out quite well in Ranger. The Gunner, it's quite a difficult one, because I can't really recommend assault rifle too much on Gunner. One of the reasons for that is because I believe... Yeah, so Blight Rounds, which is one of the most useful skills, can only be used by main class / assault rifle. Now, I think that means that you can only use it on Ranger. I don't think you can use Blight Rounds while you're playing Gunner. Obviously, if you had Gunner as your subclass, then by all means, yeah, you could do that. But if you're using Gunner as main class, then I don't think you can use Blight Rounds, which is one of the big advantages of using assault rifle. Because the main use of assault rifle, apart from the single target damage, is the ability to add those blight rounds to targets and massively increase the damage that they take. It's a huge benefit in multi-party areas. It's a huge benefit on boss fights. The damage increase that you see is huge from blight rounds, and it helps the entire party. Which is why you'll often find that in an urgent quest, if you've got a ranger that's using blight rounds, you'll see the completion time for the quest drop quite significantly. So that's the main use for assault rifle, I would say. So I think that's most of the areas of assault rifle covered. We will do other videos covering the other weapons in the game as well. But I hope that's been relatively useful for covering assault rifle. It's not a weapon I'm as familiar with. I don't really play Ranger as much. But I would say that assault rifle is a generally pretty useful weapon overall. And it definitely has its place in the game. It's obviously designed as like a support weapon to support the party with blight rounds, as well as being a reasonably efficient single target damage as well. So we'll end the video there. If you've got any questions at all, just leave them in the comments below and I'll try and answer what I can. Also, if you've got any recommendations for what weapon you want to see next, by all means, let me know in the comments or hit me up on Twitter or X, whatever you want to call it. On Twitter, I am at section_skylight. Just drop the comments there and I'll try and sort of appeal to the community a bit, and I'll try and do what you guys want me to do. So we have already covered some of the weapons. So we've already covered rod, twin daggers. I think it was rod, twin daggers, and gunblade we've covered so far. So anything apart from those, just let me know what you want to see next. But for the meantime, thanks for watching. I will see you guys in the next video. And as I say, any questions, just leave them in the comments. See you in the next one.